Hey everyone, welcome back to Heroes Workshop. This is Stealth. Today's project, I'm going to be building the Doomslayer helmet from the highly anticipated game Doom Eternal. The foam Pepakura file links are in the description. You can follow along and build the Doomslayer helmet with me, or you can go all out and build the entire Praetor suit. Okay, so first you're going to open up the foam Pepakura file for the Doomslayer helmet, and you need to set the scale for your head size. You need to measure your head width. So my head width is 6.5 inches wide. I measured this in the Red Hood cosplay helmet tutorial video. You can check that out, how to measure your head width. So this helmet is not a fitted helmet, so you're gonna have to add probably 2 inches to the width. So you go to setting, change scale, set scale, and under width. So my head width would be 8.5 if it's 6.5. So that's with 2 inches extra. If you scaled up, so you're just gonna have to rearrange the parts so they fit on the page inside these lines here. And then once that's good, go to File, Print, and then print your templates, and then we'll cut them out. Remember when printing the Pepakura file templates to print on cardstock paper, so that way the templates aren't flimsy when you're tracing them onto the foam. I have all your printed sheets, and now you're gonna cut these templates out using a hobby knife or utility knife. Then I tape some of the seams together on each piece. Makes your life a lot easier when you're tracing these onto the foam. I covered this technique more in detail in this video in the top right. You can check that out after this video, and you can apply it to this project. I used EVA foam for this helmet, and the thickness was 6 millimeters thick. I merged some of the template pieces with tape to create bigger pieces. This makes it easier to trace onto the foam and reduce even more seams. I covered this technique in another video, which will also be linked in the description. Then you trace the templates onto the foam. Remember to flip the template to get the other side. Also refer to the Pepakura designer on curves and angled cuts and raised areas, and cut the pieces out accordingly. Use the Pepakura designer to assess any rounded areas, and you take a heat gun to those areas and use a styrofoam ball to heat shape those pieces into a nice curved surface. To glue all the foam pieces together, I use contact cement. Remember to apply the contact cement on both sides of the contact points in a thin layer. Also remember when tracing templates to include a lip, as you see here. The lip helps you create the illusion of a raised surface. You can use a heat gun to accelerate the drying time of the contact cement. Remember to keep the heat gun moving so you don't burn it. Once the contact cement is tacky to the touch, you can start assembling the pieces. Remember that the foam will stretch and squeeze to ensure that you assemble the piece properly. These two pieces here are going to need a V-cut in order to get a nice soft edge, as you see here. I used the original template and I drew a line 1/3 of the way down on a slight angle. Then I cut that line out thick enough for a marker to leave an impression. And then I used the template to trace that line on the inside of both those pieces. Using that line as a guide, I cut a V-cut, not going through the foam, but on a slight angle, going halfway through the foam on both sides, leaving a valley within the foam. Then you apply contact cement within the valley, let that dry to a tacky state, and then you bend that valley closed, and it should give you the soft angled edge you're looking for. When you're assembling the rest of this helmet, remember to refer to the Pepakura for Cosplay video tutorial series included with this file or any other file on heroesworkshop.com. It teaches you the Pepakura foam building basics, and you can apply those techniques to this helmet or any other project you're working on. Remember that all Pepakura foam files are just a base. A lot of the missing details you'll have to create yourself using reference found on the internet. On this helmet I had to create my own template for the backplate. It's a piece that the fins will end up sitting on, and also I made a template for the lip that goes on the upper front section. For the visor, I traced the template onto a dark green safety shield, and then I cut it out with scissors. If it's too tough to cut with scissors, remember to use a heat gun and you can soften the plastic a bit, and then it should be fine to cut out. For the detail lines on the helmet, I would draw those lines on the templates so that I know exactly where they go. Then I would cut those sections apart, and then use the template with the cutout section, and then trace that line onto the helmet. This method is simple and it works great, because all you need to do is trace the line, and then you flip the template to achieve the symmetrical line on the other side. Take a hobby knife or utility knife and lightly score all the detail lines on the helmet. Then you go over those lines with a heat gun, let it cool down, and then go over it again. I recommend going over the lines twice so they open up a bit more. With a rotary tool like a Dremel and a sanding bit, I recommend going over all the sharp edges just to bring them down and soften them up a bit. And then once you're done sanding all the edges, go over those with a heat gun to heal them and smooth them out. I used a palm sander and 240 grit sandpaper attached to sand down the seams and make them level. Then once again I went over with the heat gun. The heat always helps to heal foam a little bit. Not perfectly, but it does bring down a lot of the roughness. To fill in the seams I use Quick Seal. It's an acrylic caulk. I used a playing card to spread it over the seams. I waited for it to dry and then I lightly sanded it over with 1000 grit sandpaper. Before you can paint foam, you need to seal it. I use a PVA glue type liquid called Bounce. You can also use PVA glue itself mixed with water. I apply it with a foam brush and I put on one coat and wait for it to dry. Before I paint the base coat, I use this Vallejo surface primer. It's an acrylic polyurethane mix and I only apply one coat. Painted the helmet using acrylics. I mixed my own custom green to match the Doomslayer helmet closely, and I sprayed it out of a spray gun. I applied enough coats to get an even solid coverage. For the other colors I ended up hand painting and not spraying them. I mixed a custom gunmetal color, and then I also mixed kind of like a metallic brown color that offsets the gunmetal. To help make the detail lines pop a bit more, so what I did was I just used a simple fine tip dark gray marker and I just traced all the detail lines and it really gave it a nice effect. Using a lot of references I found online, I use it to help create templates to paint these light gray areas and also the yellow areas that you see on the helmet. I mixed up a custom red paint to paint any red details found on the helmet. For an exposed metal effect on the Doomslayer helmet, I went over some edges with a metallic paint pen. This method worked just as good as a traditional method I've done in other videos using a masking technique. For the Slayer logo, I just simply painted it by hand with red paint. It was finally time to glue on the fins on the top and the rear of the helmet. To attach them I used a gel super glue. It works really well with foam, especially areas that aren't going to flex too much. I used a wood burning tool to poke holes for where the LEDs are going to go for the lights. I didn't have red LEDs, so I just painted the white LEDs with this Mr. Color clear red paint. I then soldered all the red LEDs together and connected it to a AAA battery pack with an on and off switch. I also have a white LED strip which will go into the top of the helmet, which will shine down on my face so you can see my face through the visor. Once all the LEDs were wired up, I glued them into the pre-made holes into the helmet. And the last thing to do on the helmet was install the visor. I used super glue, and the super glue worked great with the foam and the plastic. The Doom Eternal Slayer foam cosplay helmet. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys would like to see more builds and support Heroes Workshop directly, please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Remember to comment and like. It really helps the channel and helps the videos get around. Remember to share the video with your friends. If you'd like to build your own Doomslayer helmet or armor, all the Peppercore file links and cosplay supplies used are linked into the description. That's it for the video. Appreciate you guys watching. Now get out there and rip and tear.